reason that's why I'm alive. Listen, not the scenes, time to live my dreams.
And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Around the Halo episode numero dos. It's a bilingual episode here, clearly, and I've mastered both languages. Don't look that up. I am joined here with our four incredible competitors, as we sometimes jokingly refer to this as a little game show, which is, of course, John the Bearded Blevins, Bridget Richardson from Mac Studio, Joel Stepanek at Chasing Humility, and our new guest tonight, Jackie Angel from Word on Fire. We are excited to have all of you here. This is fantastic news. Just as a quick side note, I do not have access to chat tonight, so you guys are going to have to yell at John if something is totally going wonky with audio-visual stuff, but I worked hard since last time to fix everything, and there will be no problems at all. And if the tape reveals anything otherwise, I will have it destroyed. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. To start off, we're going to go through some quick introductions, as this is only our second episode here on Around the Halo with Little Flower Media, and just make sure everybody gets to know everyone. We've become fast friends in the last 30 minutes just in having the conversation about the topics, so we hope that chat can and our viewers can join us as well. So let's go around the Halo with our introductions. John, you want to start us off?
Why did Skeeter just say no audio?
I don't know.
He has to be trolling.
I hope he's trolling. This is the wrong time, Skeeter.
I love Skeeter. He has to be trolling. Let me know if you guys can hear me. I'm Jonathan.
They said they can.
Okay. Eucharist is like, we can hear. Can't.
He's in a good mood because of Harbaugh.
Yeah, he's happy because the Vikings stole Harbaugh from Michigan, so he's just going to troll me the rest of the night.
All right, John, we'll use your 30-second intro on that. Let's move on to Bridget.
I love my wife. Okay, I'm done.
Hi, Bridget Richardson, producer of Mac Studios. My husband's here, I hope. Daniel, if you got in, hi. We're not in the same state right now, so I'm glad he's here. We have two little girls, super cute, and yeah, I'm super pumped. I'm in Houston right now and ready to do this.
Fantastic. Joel Stepanek.
Okay, never imitated, rarely duplicated. Any likeness to figures, real or fictitious, is purely coincidental, and I have no siblings with a similar last name with the first name Chris. What's up?
That
I'm in a mood tonight.
Is amazing, especially since I just screenshotted you and made your face an NFT.
What a gift.
Jackie Angel, go ahead.
I just sold that NFT, and my name is Jackie Francois Angel, and I am a wife, a mom of 4 crazy children who I homeschool, which makes it crazier, and I like doing weird voices. So anyways, I also work at Word on Fire as a fellow for marriage and family life, and I'm at their studio. This lovely
it's nice.
Yeah, it's amazing, by the way.
So nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm a singer-songwriter, author, YouTuber, whatever. I just want to preach Jesus wherever I go. And I don't care where I do it, in an Uber, in a hospital. I will do it anywhere.
That's awesome. I've been reading your smoke signals for weeks, and I really like your takes on everything that you've got up there in the sky so far. All right, well, should we jump right in, crew?
Yeah, wait. So I'm gonna wait to ask Jackie to homeschool my kids for after the show.
That's probably the right call.
Hashtag we'll move to Dallas.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I'm sure she'll be super excited about that, and that the paycheck that's included is going to make it well worth it.
Absolutely.
All right, let's fire it up. Topic number 1, Super Bowl predictions. So it looks as though we are down to 2 teams left in this little small event that is held every year called the Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure that like tens of people attend, and then it's reported on widely, mostly by people just yelling and throwing things at their television screens. But what do you think? Who's walking away with it, John?
I'm last.
Oh, John gets to go last. That's right.
I
He
refuse
gets
to
so
go
excited.
Just blocked.
I know.
I refuse to go first.
You
Shut
threw
down.
that to him, and he spiked it in your
I know.
New
Even more
rule.
dangerous since the guy who's in control of the audio has now made to feel like a fool.
Don't give me negative points. You didn't put that in yet.
Points.
We haven't started yet.
Everybody
All right.
gets 1 block where they get to go last.
All
New rule.
right. Joel, go ahead.
I got 2 predictions for the Super Bowl this year. 1, Cincinnati Bengals. My son has picked the Bengals since wild card round prior to that Steelers game. And honestly, he's been right. And I am on the Joe Burrow train. Jamar Chase, I think they've got an unruly connection. And my second prediction for the game is there's going to be 1 Super Bowl commercial that's going to make everybody feel awful about themselves. I don't know what it is or when it's going to happen, but it's going to be Bengals and us all feeling terrible in Super Bowl 55.
Yeah, Doritos usually do make me feel bad, just in general, from both eating them and craving them. Bridget, what do you think? Is there something that you consume that just makes you feel terrible?
Oh man, no. I love food. It's so good.
No is the correct
Bless you.
answer, Bridget, but who's going to win the Super Bowl?
You know, I'm going Bengals. I think it's an unreasonable pick if you look at the numbers, but they have got mad swag and confidence right now. My dad is a huge LSU fan, so he's been on the Joe Burrow train for his whole entire NFL career. And, you know, the thing that I like is that it's easy to root for both of these teams, but if the Rams defense doesn't hurt Joe Burrow, I think that the Bengals are going to take it home. And either way, it's going to be a fun game and 2 quarterbacks that are super easy to root for.
Amazing. Well, Jackie, what do you think? And if you pick the Packers and they actually pull it off, I will give you $10 million.
Hey, my mom is from Wisconsin, loves the Packers. But I am a traitor. I'm a traitor of my Southern California native homeland, and because now I have moved. And so I am rooting for the underdog. Those poor Bengals. They you know, they just have never yeah, I feel bad for them. So I'm going to root for them. Throw up a Hail Mary. That's my prediction. Throw up a Hail Mary, and, you know, they're going to win it all. They're going to win it all by the grace of God. So.
All right, John, over to you, and it better be worth it.
Rams by 100 points.
Oh, my God.
The Bengals,
emphatic things,
the
but that is
Bengals, listen, dude, all year long, we've been watching what a joke the AFC is. It's ridiculous. They all just beat up on each other. Herbert probably could have made the same run that Burrow has made if the Chargers would have got in. Go with the old school thinking that defense wins championships. That's always been true. It is true today. Aaron Donald by himself could beat the Bengals. He's having an unbelievable playoff run. Von Miller, unbelievable. And Stafford is just doing, like, seriously, he's somehow still being underrated. Like the whole world's crowning him except everyone who's in my circle. It's crazy. I love Joe Burrow. He's going to be back a bunch. He's a great young guy, easy to root for. But it's Stafford's time. Rams 41, Bengals 21. Book it.
That's a terrible game. If that's the answer. I hope not. We've had so many good playoff games. If that is a blowout.
I mean, Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times against a team that's nowhere near as good at defense as the Rams. And the Chiefs are horrible at defense, and they still almost also beat them. I just think it's a horrible matchup. But hey, Tim the Tap Man picked the Rams, so put all your money on the Bengals.
Totally. And just in case anyone's tracking my stats, I have yet to be sacked even once this year. Moving right along, Adam Schefter and Tom Brady. So this clearly was a little piece of reporting that jumped out really early and said that this retirement is going to happen. And as we discussed it a little bit in our pre-meeting meeting, we talked a little bit perhaps about the integrity of reporting and whether or not it's appropriate to, you know, kind of throw that news out there. I would submit that in the world of entertainment and sports news, it doesn't really matter if you're right or wrong, so no harm, no foul. But I don't know. What do you think, Jackie?
Well, I too can predict the future, and my future says that my husband will make dinner for me tomorrow night. But he doesn't know it yet. In fact, he is in denial that it is happening yet, but it will happen because just like Adam Schefter, I can predict the future.
That's
Hold on a second. If
amazing.
he actually makes you dinner tomorrow, then you are the Adam Schefter of the Catholic world.
He, in fact, will not make me dinner because I am flying to California tomorrow. If he does, I will not be there to see it or eat it.
And also because you taunted him on Around the Halo. What do you think here, Joel?
I think as a Packer fan, I've got a history with Adam Schefter, and I love the fact that he does stuff like this. I think it's fantastic because football is supposed to be entertaining. And so Adam Schefter makes it entertaining. When he drops his perfectly timed tweets that are like, oh, and by the way, before the NFL draft starts, Aaron Rodgers wants out of his contract. I knew that months ago, but I'm going to let you know right now. And the whole Tom Brady thing, like the people funneling this information to Adam Schefter. I mean, the guy, he's an entertainer. He's not a reporter. He's an entertainer. And I loved this whole thing. I love that he was wrong. I love that he trolled people when Brady finally did retire. It was great. That's what I want out of football. I want that out of football. Out of my regular media where I learn like the news, I don't like entertainment. So I have a very big separation here. If it's football, entertainment, make it crazy. Love the crazy news reporting. If it's real news, I keep it boring and just tell me the facts. But Adam Schefter, 2 thumbs up. Fantastic work this week.
John, do you think it makes a difference that Tom Brady's wife has a voodoo doll of Adam Schefter?
That's actually probably true, and unfortunate. Pray for them. So I never.
Maybe she left it out, and that's how he heard. They were talking about it around the voodoo doll, and Schefter was like, oh, "I heard something."
I never doubted the Schefter report. It's, you know, when he announced it on Sunday, it was hilarious. And then the following day after Tom Brady said it's not true, he tripled down on it and was like, we're going to stick with the sources. It's true. And I think it's hilarious. It is entertainment. It's funny. I do think he is a reporter and he's done some shady things in the past. Adam Schefter has to get some of his stuff and that needs to be handled correctly. But here's the deal, right? Like Tom Brady is the issue here. Adam Schefter did his job. Tom Brady needs to find people in his life that he trusts more and needs to have a smaller circle, right? Like my family and I, we're very close. Tyler has done really cool things. And a lot of times I know way ahead of time, but when he was on The Masked Singer, I didn't know until that morning. I got a text message that was like, hey, you should probably watch The Masked Singer tonight. And all of us were like, oh, I wonder why. And he trusts us. So Tom is telling way too many people about retiring. Clearly Schefter found out about it and it's ridiculous. And by the way, this is coming from me who is livid about the Harbaugh news tonight. Before Harbaugh announces that he's leaving Michigan, he is apparently leaked the information somehow, but it's just the way the world works.
Bridget, what do you think? Is this like some kind of, underhanded scheme to take away, somebody's thunder and in getting what they deserve after a long career, or totally legitimate?
Totally legitimate. He's a reporter. He doesn't owe anything to Tom Brady at all. It's definitely a question of loyalty on Tom Brady's side, right? Like somebody squealed, somebody shared a little information because they wanted to be in the know, and then it went everywhere. And kudos to Adam Schefter for not backing down. Now, I will admit, if you watch that interview the night of when he admitted it, and then Brady's dad came out and said, oh, this is not a thing. And then Bruce Arians said, oh no, we haven't heard anything. This isn't happening. Adam Schefter looked stressed. I mean, his tie was undone. He was sweating. It was a brutal interview to watch, but kudos to him for doing his job, doing the reporting, and he has credibility. People believe him. So, I think it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, he probably doesn't get the big strike against him until he's so far off base that everybody, gets him canceled or fired. Moving right along, we are on to women's only workout area. So there was a decision in the Connecticut State Supreme Court saying that having a women's only workout area in a co-ed gym was discrimination, which sounded like it originally came from the members of that gym wanting to have a space to themselves, and then it all falling apart because a few gentlemen were like, hey, we're all waiting to use machines and there's open machines in the women's only workout area. Is there any chance that, those could be used? And the answer was no. And so ultimately it became a much larger conversation. Now, Jackie, I know that you're a gym goer and perhaps had the greatest deal of all time at a previous gym, so maybe you want to start us off.
I think you overstate that I was a gym goer.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
I did belong to a women's only gym called Total Woman, and the package deal was that you would get a once a month facial or massage along with the package deal. And I will say I would go definitely for the once a month massage and probably not work out once the entire.
So what you're saying is it was a great business model. They absolutely were charging a monthly fee for a once a month service.
Absolutely. And
incredible.
I say women go to the women's gym if you don't want to be ogled and looked at and whistled at, whatever. I'm all about the Total Woman, or Blevins, he goes to Curves.
Wow. I knew that was coming back at me.
That was coming back.
He can tell you about his experience there. So, yeah.
John, what's your favorite affirmation that you receive at Curves while doing the predetermined circle workout?
Well, every single time that I go to Curves and I have a beard trim, they tell me that I've lost a lot of weight and that I look great, and I thank them.
They're very affirmative. Yes,
it's great. It's an interesting story, and I've been to many gyms. Actually, I know that you can't tell. That's because I haven't found quite the right one. But I've been to many, right? And I've been to the No Judgment Zone at Planet Fitness for $10 a month, and LA Fitness, where they charge you way too much and they're not very nice when you walk in, and Orange Theory, which I love to death, but felt weird being the only guy there at the morning sessions. And so it's just a very interesting thing. But here's what I'm noticing more than anything. Gyms are just going to be obsolete very soon. Peloton is the way to go. The home workout stuff, it's just awkward. Like, until you find a gym that is perfect for you, it's awkward. Every time you go to the gym, people are looking at you. They're wondering if you're looking at them. I'm sitting there watching Netflix on the treadmill, trying to find out what happened in Ozark. And someone thinks I'm taking a picture of them. I'm like, no, I'm just watching Netflix. Leave me alone. And so, you know what? Gyms are the next Blockbuster. They're done. They're out of style. Work out at home.
It's a hot
John,
take.
when's the last time you worked out at home?
I worked out. Well, it's been a while since I worked out at home. But it's been a while since I worked out at a gym. So,
well, Joel, what do you think? As I think the rest of our viewers and you know that in order to get an actual elite level workout, it requires so much equipment that unless you are Joe Rogan, you're going to struggle to have all of that stuff in your home. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it does. It requires equipment. It requires a community, which is why gyms will never die, at least for people who want to, stay fit. I think you can do it at home, but having community is great. And I think it requires being comfortable. I once walked into a Curves because I had to drop something off there. Like, mail got misdelivered to our,
yes, it did,
where we were. And I had to bring it to this Curves, right? And I got daggers walking in. People were like, what are you doing? Because that was a space that's like, this is kind of a judgment-free zone, or a place where people felt comfortable. I think, here's my take on this. If a business wants to do this in gyms, like, having a segregation of genders is normal. Locker rooms, bathrooms, showers, having a spot where like women work out and that's a women's only workout area. If that's what the gym wants to do, that's what their members want. They need to be free to do that. That's absolutely fine. And you know what? If the members don't like it, go to another gym. Go get a Peloton, go to Orange Theory, go somewhere else. Don't choose that gym. But like, that people are like, no, I have to take it upon myself. And then if enough members leave, guess what? The gym closes, and then you really stuck it to them. But the truth is, a couple people made this a thing on some gym owners who were trying to do right by their members. For whatever reason, people wanted that. The gym said, we can accommodate that. We've got the space. Clearly they must have had a big enough facility to do it. And instead of working it out through the market, we went and told on them.
What do you think, Bridget? Do they have a big enough facility to do it if there's people waiting in line on one section and not on the other VIP section?
That's an interesting question, because I was wondering if any of this would have been happening if they just would have added an additional machine for men. I don't think we'd even be here right now if they had one, maybe two extra machines for men. But all that being said, like, this reminds me of that episode of Parks and Recreation where, you know, Leslie didn't want to enter the pie contest, so Ben entered it. And then they had this men's activist group, the Male Men. And they said, you know, behind every successful woman is a man who has been oppressed. Like, that's what this felt like to me. I kind of read it and was like, what is going on? Is this really happening? Like, is this discrimination against men? Like, what? Because the thing is that they weren't actually discriminated against. They just didn't want to wait. And that is a completely different issue. This to me is not a thing about discrimination. It speaks to how our culture is argumentative, and we just go to suing people and taking people to court. We don't actually have a dialogue. We don't say, hey, can you add some more machines for men? Because we're struggling over here. Like, the ladies get everything. Can we have a little bit? Like, they didn't do that. They just went to the Supreme Court and sued them. So to me, this is such a weird thing. Like, I just feel like it speaks more to our culture than actual like gym politics.
Kind of like, Bridget, how every women's bathroom needs 5 times the amount of stalls as men's bathrooms.
Preach.
Do you
Wait,
hear me?
what?
Preach it, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I want to talk to whoever like makes up these architects. I'm like, you're all men, because there's always the same amount of stalls in a women's bathroom as a men's bathroom. You've seen lines.
They
You've
see
seen
the lines. They
Oh, I
see
thought you said there were more. Are there couches? I heard that was a thing.
No,
Occasionally.
there are not couches.
Really?
You don't want to be, well, it
Yes,
depends.
yes, there are.
There was a
Like
couch
it.
at your gym, you know it.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
at a
were couches.
gym.
There are couches in the
No, I
men's
mean in the
locker room
ba-
at
I mean in the
gyms, and
bathrooms.
You don't
I'm
want to
talking
go
about
there.
like airport. No, there are not couches. You don't want to be sitting in there in a women's bathroom. No, thank you. But yes.
That
the
is a good
opposite
point.
is-
And I did, when I read this story, considered for a second that perhaps this was just blowback from always having higher quality towels and robes in the ladies' locker rooms that the men do not receive in any capacity. But a lot of that comes from my background of working in country clubs, so might not be the greatest comparison. Moving right along. World War III. This is a fun topic for us to dive into under this format, but let's give it a shot anyway. I am going to attempt to give a 45-second distillation of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which is always a great thing to do on the internet. So here we go. It sounds like essentially when the USSR broke up, Ukraine was given its own countryhood, so to speak, and decided that they were going to adopt a little bit more Western philosophy when it came to the way in which they were going to try to run their newfound country. Of course, part of that had to do with Western countries kind of dipping their toe in the water because they needed money. And so there was obviously a little bit of an alliance built around that being in its location, right next to Russia. In 2004, I think they annexed part of the country back. Russia did, and it led to some violence across the board. Obviously, each country has its own side. Russia's is essentially that security concerns are coming through that country, and no one is dealing with it, so they are going to build up their forces and do whatever they have to do on that side. And it also sounds like on the other end, Ukraine is applying for to be part of NATO, which would bring them even further into quote-unquote Western civilization. Time, how'd I do? Not great, nor do I think that was necessarily correct in terms of all the things I was talking about, but
Good job distilling a complex geopolitical situation into 45 seconds.
yeah, it's fine. We should really leave this to comedians. They're much better at it than I am. But so essentially, I jokingly called this World War III, but only because in theory, if these two countries start to get into it, a whole bunch of other economic and global powers get dragged into the conflict, right? Because people have interests on both sides. So let's ask for a volunteer of who wants to start on this one. Bridget!
Bridget!
So
Would
many
you like to-
points for
I'll
just
take it.
being willing to go
There was a lot of
first.
confidence in that hand raise, actually. I like that.
I mean, it's international politics. We have to know something about what's going on, and I was grateful to have to do research on this, truly. And any type of war is just awful. Like, we in this world are one. We're one people. So any war that affects any nation is sad and hurtful and devastating. And that being said, I'm going to take this from a Houston angle, because here, if Russia invades Ukraine, apparently our gas is going to go up to like $8. And that is just wild. So, and that's because of all the sanctions that are in place, right? This just goes back to something that's been a part of the political conversation for a while, especially international politics. We are super reliant on international oil, and it's been a problem for the United States. And so it's just exposing that in a big way. So for me, I think we definitely think green, think renewable resources in the US. Let's go. Like, to me, it's just an influx of like, all right, where are people who are thinking about that kind of thing? Like, bring them to the forefront so that we could get this thing going. But again, being in Houston, you have to think about, okay, that's job loss because we are heavy oil and gas. And that's also job creation because of different areas that we'll be tapping into. So definitely a political hot potato, but hey, I want us to go green.
Sweet. Well, since we don't have the ability to be drafted, John, and we spend a lot of our time playing video games on a live stream, do you think that we are allowed to have an opinion in this particular venue?
You're probably going to think I shouldn't after I say what I'm about to say, but I think, can't we just settle this stuff the good old fashioned way of like the Olympics, just not in China? Like, come on. Like, let's just play some curling and figure this out. For real though, it's scary stuff. And I'm definitely not an expert, but listen, it's serious if Russia has 100,000+ troops ready to go at any moment. And what that means for our world and our security it's a big deal, regardless of if they act on it or not. And so I really hope that it gets solved diplomatically and that they figure this out before anything wild happens or anything crazy happens. And it is just kind of scary that like at the drop of a hat, we could be in another type of situation where it's like a world war, which is just nuts. I don't know what comedian said it, but it's really funny, whoever did, where it's like, what mistake was made when we called it World War I? Like, assuming there's going to be a second one or a third one. Ridiculous. I hope it doesn't happen, and let's figure it out diplomatically.
That's fair. A recent survey of the Russian people put the United States as their number one threat, their number one perceived threat on the global scale, which was fascinating to me because I wouldn't have put Russia in the top 10 if the question had been reversed, which seems to say a lot about what is going on internally within these countries, in terms of, whatever the current regime is that's in control and kind of creating the narrative. But what do you think, Joel? Are we on the brink of World War III?
I sadly think we might be. And it's weird because you talk about that poll with the Russian people, but at the same time, I remember, several years ago, how many video games, like Call of Duty games, like Modern Warfare 2 is the one that comes to mind, had the Russians as the antagonists. Like they were the bad guys in a video game we distributed in the United States where we're the good guys. And like, oh, those Russians, like that's how the war be fought. So it's fascinating to me that Americans didn't think that way.
Yeah. And Rocky IV.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna bring it Rocky IV. Come on.
The best Rocky, no contest.
But since the Cold War, this has sort of been an underlying thing in both countries where there are people who remember that being like, this is the number one enemy, mutually assured destruction, that whole thing. In 2012, there was in the third presidential debate, Mitt Romney and President Barack Obama were debating. And President Obama said to Mitt regarding a statement Mitt Romney had made about the geopolitical threat. And Mitt Romney had said in that he thought that Russia was the number one geopolitical threat to the United States at that time, not Al-Qaeda. And President Obama came back and said, Mitt, the 1980s called, they want their foreign policy back. And everybody laughed at Mitt. Oh, Mitt, he's so naive. Russia, that's not a problem anymore. We all owe Mitt Romney an apology because in the past few years, it's been Russia, 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 Russia all over the news. And now we've got this situation. And I think what happens is nobody investigated his claim because everybody got political on it. But I think there's a lesson to be learned here as we move forward and we continue to navigate this stuff in the news and with politicians. There's an agenda behind all these things. But my take on this, I hope we're not moving to World War III. I don't know that we're prepped as a country as far as unity to do it. I think that that's where you lose a war. And that's where Vietnam was lost, here in our unity. I'm concerned about that. But what I do know is we owe Mitt Romney from 2012 an apology.
Next week, I'll do a quick, tight 45 seconds on a sum up of Vietnam and that conflict. So be ready for that because I'm definitely geared and most qualified to discuss those topics. But with that said, Jackie, it certainly seems like there's a lot more that kind of connects us than divides us as a people, right? In terms of we live on the internet, and that's part of our business. And I certainly feel like there's a lot more like cross community involved with people just living their lives, and perhaps it gets inflated on the global stage by politicians and a few people in power. What do you think?
Well, yeah, you're wondering why, like, when President Biden and the Ukrainian, like, they were talking, and the Ukrainian president was like, you know, basically saying, like, Biden's making more of this deal than even I am. Like, it's like, yeah, there's always an agenda behind everything. And as I'm like reading more about this whole thing, there's a lot of stuff that the U.S. has been involved with Ukraine that's pretty shady. And so it's as you're learning more about it, you're like, wow, we've been involved with Ukraine for a long time. And again, World War III would be terrible. All it takes is some nuclear weapons, and I mean, pointed at whatever city they want from the U.S., from Russia. Yeah, it's a scary thought. So none of us want World War III. You know, and so, but I think our involvement in it, it's when you start reading, most of the mainstream media doesn't report what the U.S.'s role has been in Ukraine. So Russia is just the enemy. It's like we want to make sure Russia's always the enemy, which it doesn't mean that they're not doing terrible stuff. No, my last name is not Franskinovaski or whatever.
Francois.
Although I am half Polish, but that's Danchik. So anyways, yeah, there's, it's like we think we're always the good guy. We think we want the Western democracy, like, and that it's always done in a good way, but that's not always the case. It's like when you start digging deeper, it's pretty shady stuff that our government has done on behalf in Ukraine. And so, man, yeah, we need to really just pray and hope that World War III does not happen, and hopefully this de-escalates. So.
Yeah. Recently, I came across a map from 2017 that had to do with the likely targets if there was kind of a global attack, and I just want to make sure everybody knows that Little Flower Media was not on that list of targets in terms of location. Chicago, unfortunately, is, which is where we're based. Actually, we used Marco's address, so sorry, Marco. Moving right along.
You need to check with Adam Schefter in case that.
I should, absolutely.
I had a teacher in college that told me that World War III was going to happen over the lack of fresh water in the world. Do you remember that, Joel? Like, I was like,
yeah,
13,
no,
I told you about it, and I was just
this.
like,
yeah,
I was like, we're all going to die. Manitowoc is the worst place to be.
Right. Yeah, we agreed.
And now Nestle has taken over and moved us right away from that being a problem anymore ever again, because we can buy our own water back from them. Canceling Spotify. So this week, Joe Rogan on his podcast had some people on in which there was a stance taken that could have been perceived as anti-vax or whatever you want to call it in the current situation of the pandemic. In which case, a couple of other artists followed suit and said, I think that these people are being vaccine deniers, and so I would like my content removed from your platform. And so far, I've only heard of two, and I don't remember who they are, which is how influential they are in my life. Neil Diamond and Joni, Neil Young and Jody Mitchell. Okay, all right. So
Joni Mitchell,
probably has these albums behind her somewhere. Like,
right,
these are classic musicians.
Right, right. And when they decide to take their catalog off of a single internet platform, I'm always curious as to like what the end game is in that regard. And my personal stance on it is that when you listen to a podcast or perhaps watch a show that, you know, is on YouTube and, you know, live on Twitch, you know, has a variety of topics, that perhaps you don't have to agree with 100% of the things that are said on that particular thing in order for you to feel that you weren't, you know, offended or assaulted as a person, that you have to go have it removed. Otherwise, I can't figure out why this flat earther thing continues to gain traction. But what do you think, Jackie? Is this something that is worth doing, canceling Spotify because you line up on one side or the other politically?
No, I love that somebody having a conversation about something is so threatening now, or like it's labeled misinformation. In fact, just to let you know, if something is labeled as misinformation, I now believe that it is definitely true. everything that has been labeled misinformation in the last 2 years has become true. It's like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Like, oh, well, just wait 6 months and now you're not. And that's the thing. It's like, I cannot believe that we cannot have differing opinions without being labeled misinformation. It's like, I can't believe we can't just have arguments, discuss. It's like, if these people are really angry about this, then like have the experts go on Joe Rogan, have them actually communicate their points in a coherent way. And that's what I love about Joe Rogan. He's not trying to convince people. Why people love him is he's just asking people questions, and you're just inviting people to learn more about something, and you can agree, you can disagree. So I think it's absolutely crazy that we've come to a place of censorship, that we, like, if someone disagrees with our opinion, we're like, censor them. And then for me personally, I'm like, if you're censoring them, I want to listen to them all the more, because I want to know why the heck you're censoring, because people who censor have never been on the right side of history. So so I'm all about Neil Diamond. No, just kidding. It's not Neil Diamond. It's interesting watching this all happen in real time.
Yeah, I think that I recently came across a book that was talking about the death of experts. And it was essentially saying that we have conflated people being experts to those that have influence. Bridget, do you think that like that is part of our own fault in our society, that we're in a place where you go like, we better shut down Joe Rogan isn't a person that I would go to for anything other than kickboxing tips. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so the fact that like there's a large group of people that are like, Joe Rogan did this seems kind of crazy. Am I the only one taking crazy pills?
Well, I just don't believe in canceling anyone. Like, canceling is such a weird thing to think about. Like, I don't know, cancel someone, you do not exist. Like, we can't be that type of godlike figure for people. It's just not okay. But like, this was just such a weird thing. But I don't know, I'm kind of like a little opposite of what Jackie's saying, just because I'm like, if artists want to stand up for themselves, do it. Like, if you're like, hey, I don't want to be a part of this because of this, and like Spotify is in cahoots with Joe Rogan, so like they support him financially, so what obligation do they have to people to make sure that it's true and accurate information? Those are still things that are still being talked out with every platform, right? With YouTube, with Spotify, with Netflix. Like, how much obligation do these platforms have to the content that they actively support and the people who consume it? So it's a great question, but if artists want to pull their content, pull it, right? Like, if you don't support it, do your thing. Like, it's you created it. But as the consumer, it makes me really sad that I might not have certain music on Spotify because they are in disagreement. Like, Brene Brown came out and said that she's not going to put her podcast on Spotify for the foreseeable future too. And it's like, that's sad, right? Like, it's really depressing, but you know, you're a creator, you are well within your right to remove your content if you don't disagree with something. So it just makes me really sad that I got rid of all of my CDs, and I hope that Foo Fighters doesn't feel the same.
I can mail you a CD player, by the way, if it comes up. I tried to get rid of one in a garage sale, and it wasn't worth a quarter. So, I mean, sorry, but I mean, if the technology still exists, I'm sure we can dig it out of someone's basement. I still think that perhaps this is an overreach until Joe Rogan's podcast is required listening at med school. What do you think, John?
This whole thing is wild, and nothing surprises me anymore. So I can't say that it's surprising. Here's the thing, right? Though Joe Rogan makes $100 million plus from Spotify. Until recently, I could not name one Neil Young song or one Joni Mitchell song, and I've never heard of the podcast that Bridget just brought up. I realize that might make me uncultured. I totally get that. Like, but I feel like Neil Diamond would have had a better shot at actually getting people to care about this entire thing. And so it's kind of ridiculous. I'm Joe Rogan. I've never listened to a full podcast. I've seen clips and bits and stuff, but I know who he is because that's how famous he is. That's how big of a deal he is. If these artists want to actually like make a difference, sure, take your stuff off. I don't care. Do what you want to do. Take your stuff off. But like, until Drake and Rihanna and Eminem and all these other artists that people actually listen to by the millions take their stuff off, no one's going to listen. No one's going to care. And that's what I found interesting about this entire thing. That Neil Young didn't just say, I'm pulling my stuff out, which he totally could have done. And that would have been like, you know what? Good for you, buddy. Fine. But he said, I'm drawing a line in the sand, and it's me or Joe Rogan, as if anybody thought that they were gonna pick him. Like I liken it to being a little kid at like 7 or 8 years old and just being like, well, then I'm not coming to your birthday party. And like when the group of friends is like, fine, don't come, and you're like, it's not the reaction I thought you were gonna have. Anyway, ridiculous.
Well, I've actually pulled all of my content from Spotify as well, because, not out of solidarity, just because I was a little embarrassed by it, and it was a podcast about platform tennis that none of the world needed to hear ever again. So, I did that myself. I self-canceled, really. And, Joel, I don't think you've ever canceled yourself, so I'm sure you've got some kind of hot take for us on Spotify.
Not yet, but hey, canceling's been happening. I'm surprised I haven't. Canceling's been happening since the 1980s. It just looked different. I think I love this. I love the fact that Neil Young is like pulled his music and like they're in this war. Because again, that's how it should be. To John's point, if people don't like it, then unsubscribe to Spotify. Stop listening to their music. Neil Diamond, Neil Young.
We've all done it now.
A bunch of millennials talk about old folk singers. Next week on Around the Halo, Neil Young lost all of $10 from going away from Spotify. They pay these artists so poorly anyway. And you know what I did? I logged into Apple Music. I don't use Spotify. I use Apple Music. And there's a big banner that says Neil lives here. And so like they're just making money off his move. This is how this is supposed to work. And if it hurts Spotify enough, they're making more from Joe Rogan than they are from Neil Young, Joni Mitchell. That's what it is. Now, I think it's interesting though, as we look at cancel culture, just to broaden this a little bit, we are too young. The people in this group are too young to remember. But in the 1980s, the moral majority was a very powerful force in the United States. And they looked to censor some things, including books like The Great Gatsby, Catcher in the Rye, other things that maybe we, from our perspective, would say, I disagree with that. So the idea of cancel culture, we didn't call it that, but it's existed depending on whatever group is in power. So just as my own PSA, it might do us all well to look and step back and be like, when we're the one in power, it's really easy to be like, yeah, well, those things should get taken off because they're wrong, but everybody thinks they're right. And so maybe a little bit more open-mindedness could help us all avoid this situation. To Jackie's point, rarely do we look at censorship from the eyes of history and say, ooh, that was a good thing.
Yeah.
A PSA is that you can go on Spotify and type in Jackie Francois, and I will make 0.00001 cent every time you play one of my songs. So
I forget we have an artist. She knows Jackie. Yeah, that's what I'm
hey,
saying.
I
You
had
lost $10 this last month.
997 listeners last month, and I haven't made an album in 10 years. So.
Jackie, because we're so supportive of one another, I just listened to your album on my PC while I'm upstairs sleeping on repeat on Spotify. So I've given you at least 10 cents this year.
Just mute it. Just mute it and play it. I don't know why. Bobby, go start playing my songs on Spotify. Why do we not do this?
That's right.
It's making my money, baby.
So that's on Spotify. You can find Jackie Francois Visky on that page channel. All right, moving right along. Favorite adult beverage? Wow, we've come to this part of the evening where clearly we're looking to very gently into the future, which Jackie has the ability to do, and I think that there's possibly an adult beverage in mine. Joel, what do you think? What is your favorite adult beverage, and why is it the Bahama Mama?
Well, because it usually comes with an umbrella in it. And if it doesn't have one, is it really an adult beverage? No, actually, I have to go. Lately, I live in the Southwest, and I'm getting more into tequila. So just tequila neat. Not like the Jose Cuervo stuff that you had at a college party that made you feel tough because your friends poured it for you.
Hey, I was like tough, Joel.
Legitimate
take it back.
Tequila. Don't go one more round with Jose Cuervo. That's my answer.
Over mezcal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. I like tequila as well. Bridget,
but I appreciate that you know the difference. Thank
you. Bridget, what do you like? And it could be any adult beverage. It doesn't have to be something fancy like what John likes, the Appletini. I know it's a classic, but
wow.
Go ahead.
I just love good old-fashioned beer. Like, there's just nothing better than beer. And, the first time I truly appreciated beer was in Munich, in Germany, at Oktoberfest. And it was the most delicious thing I ever had. And from there, it's just been this wonderful journey of beer tasting. So there's just so many varieties, so many levels, so many things that people can do with it. It's just madness and beauty. So Beer. That's all you need, really.
Beer. John, is beer all you need?
Well, I thought she was actually closer to her answer when she said a good old fashioned,
I see.
because that would just be amazing. But I want you to do me a favor. I'm not going to make you close your eyes because I hate when people give talks and tell people to close their eyes. But chat and fam here, I want you to picture this. It's negative degrees outside and the heat's on, but it's not on too much. And the sun is out, but you can see your breath because it's so cold. And it's a Tuesday and you're watching Around the Halo. And you pour yourself a Boulevardier.
Why is it so cold in your house while you're watching Around the Halo where you can see your breath? What happened?
No. It's you're outside for that for just in your breath, but it's inside. It's a little toasty, but not toasty enough. And you pour yourself a nice Boulevardier, which is 1 part bourbon, 1 part sweet vermouth, 1 part Campari, and it's a fancy and perfect in every way. And you take a sip. You can feel it all the way down to your bones, and you're warm now. And you're using your Amazon Prime sub and subbing to beer to Blevins.
Can you eat that with or can you drink it with like a burger? Like
Boulevardier. And by the way, first prop besides Bridget's last week's record labels.
John, so many of those points that you just got were based entirely on your visual description of your life.
Oh, not the actual prop that I brought?
No, I mean, that's awesome too, don't get me wrong, although now that you're sipping it, it seems a little self-serving. Oh, look at my prop. I had to have it for the show.
I waited till just now.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Jackie, what do you think? What's on your list?
True story, I did not start drinking till I was 26 years old, and when I did, the first thing I did was go to a whiskey pairing, and so
wow,
you went all in.
The deep end.
You went big. You were
Get me to the hard stuff. No, just kidding. Okay, so basically it's either whiskey to keep the bones warm, or like if I'm like on a summery, like beachy, whatever, it's hot outside, give me a pina colada and I'm good. So it's like either whiskey, but here's the other thing. In the last 9 years of marriage, I've only been able to drink so this like much time. So right now, I need to be living it up. Get me some whiskey. So,
this is your moment. And now that John has provided you with a recipe, this is, I mean, clearly the way to go. I don't want to totally hijack this conversation or necessarily the content, but this is something that I'm going to ask you guys because it seems to come up on a regular enough basis. I have a group of people in my life that seem to think that alcohol is the devil, not because of their personal experiences, but because of their religious upbringing. And then I feel like a jerk when I say, there was like this wedding where something happened and Jesus did this thing. And so I don't like find that to be the same place that we're coming from in terms of like the backing in scripture. Is that fair, or am I like way off base? Anybody, I'll take my answer off the air.
Absolutely correct.
And Jackie takes the lead.
With that,
I got some thoughts.
Yeah, I would say the thing is, wine was a beverage of choice, and I get like where to start. Wine was a beverage choice because it was fermented and it was stable. Like you could it didn't go bad.
It was healthy, is what you're saying.
Yeah, in some cases, wine was safer to drink than water. Truthfully. Because water could be contaminated, but wine, because of the alcohol content in it, was some. I mean, in the dark ages, like people, when you had disease, like they would drink more wine than water. I think the flip side is like, Jesus is not just producing a bunch of wine to get people drunk. He's deliberately doing something in spite of Dionysius, the god of like wine. He's making a mockery of it and showing that he's the true God. He's usurping it. It's very Exodus. It's a wonderful story. I think if people have a religious objection to it, I could see where that comes from, because it inebriates a person. And, but I think that there's a case to be made that everything in moderation is beneficial. But if somebody's saying, hey, my religious beliefs would say I got to abstain from this, I'm like, hey, you do you. I can see that.
Bridget?
Oh, same, totally. Like if their religion is like, hey, it messes with the awareness and the understanding of what's going on around you, you're out of control, like don't even tempt fate with it, and that's a part of what you believe, then by all means, it's like, you don't want to peer pressure anyone into doing anything, especially if it's something like alcohol. Like it's so silly, right? Like if they don't drink, they don't drink. It's okay. You can still go and have a fun time and be with people. You don't have to be, 3 sheets to the wind. So if people don't want to, like, that's fine. It's okay. And it's good,
3 sheets to the wind. Is that a Neil Young song?
It's not on Spotify anymore.
Got him.
It's a Neil Diamond song.
Like, I agree with all of you. The thing, like, I don't know if this is what you're talking about, McClure, or not, but like, I think it's ridiculous when people like make you feel bad for it. You know what I mean? Like, sure, I don't care. I'm not an adult. I'm not gonna be like, you should have a drink. This is ridiculous. No, do what you want to do, but don't make me feel bad. Jesus turned water into wine, not Gatorade, and he could have very well invented Gatorade and owned Dionysus in a different way.
But how do you know that he didn't? At the end of the Gospel of John, it says there were many other signs that Jesus worked that are not written down here. For all you know, you don't know.
I'm just saying.
Jesus,
I'm just saying.
inventor of Gatorade.
I have no doubt that Coca-Cola would sue Jesus if that claim was made. Yeah, I didn't mean to throw anybody a curveball with that one. I just, to clarify, was in situations where I was playing defense, where it was definitely like, I remember buying my cousin a beer for his 21st birthday, and they were out with friends and family, and I was like, hey, it's your 21st birthday. Can I buy you a beer? And he was like, sure. And there happened to be a group of people there that were like, why do you need to do that to have fun? And I was like, the goal wasn't to be like, everybody, let's get ripped. It was just a social experience that happened to, fall in that circumstance. So anyway.
Maybe those people who were angry were just doing dry January.
Maybe they were. I totally took that in a different direction, didn't I, John? How do you feel about dry January? Worth it as a millennial movement? John, you brought it up. You got to go.
I mean, it's dry. I actually did dry January this year, and I've done it a couple of years in the last 10 years. Because a friend of mine named Brent, who does this every year and says he's done it since he was 21 years old, he's in his 50s or 60s now, recommended it. And he just said, hey, holidays get crazy. You go from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's, and like January is good to reset your whole system. And so I did dry January this year. I cheated 3 times. I was in Nashville once, and I forget what the other 2 were, unrelated to it being wet January. And I think it's just interesting, these culture trends that happen. But I think it can be very good to just take a break from any type of vice or something in your life to just make sure that you're resetting that system. So I'm for it, but I think it's weird that we do this as like a culture trend.
So what he's saying is he didn't really do dry January.
I did dry January. I did dry January. Dry January.
I did dry January, except for I drank on the even days of the month.
Yeah.
I work out in my home gym.
I also do dry January, but then I do fast food February, where I just eat that for every 3 meals a day. And I think that it balances out from a health perspective.
Right. He did dry January on the days that he went to Curves. So
yeah, exactly.
Right. Bridget, what do you think? Dry January? Yes or no?
Absolutely not. I mean, we are in a season of celebration. You got the new church year beginning with Advent. Then you got Christmas celebrating. January continues that celebration. And then you have Mardi Gras in February. And then there's Lent. That is when is the appropriate time to abstain from a thing. It's okay to celebrate all these other things.
Bridget, Lent is March Madness.
The hardest time of all.
That truly you love during Lent or what?
Oh my gosh.
I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying, if you're giving up a thing and it really matters, you're doing it during Lent, not January.
Instead, you could give up madness.
That's unreasonable.
Joel, did we come to you on this one yet? I'm sorry.
No, but my real quick take on it is I think these things are great. I think periods of abstinence from anything can be a very good reason. It can be a very good experience if you know what you're doing and you're self-aware enough through that process to really evaluate your relationship with the thing. So if you're doing dry January or dry Lent or whatever, during that, are you saying, hey, was this a problem for me going into it? Like, am I actually suffering some withdrawals from this? Or if I'm abstaining from fast food or, whatever, I think it's the self-awareness piece that really makes it shine. If you're just doing it because it's like, oh, that's a meme thing. And like, everybody's kind of doing it. I worry. And I have a history as a personal trainer, like people who do stuff like this, the pendulum sometimes swings the other way if you're not self-aware, and dry January turns into whatever February. And you can fill in the blank, and that's not good, because people are like, yeah, like, so how many people who did dry January tonight are out somewhere like it is Tuesday night, February 1st in the year of our Lord 2022, and I'm getting ripped tonight, and like totally defeats the purpose. So I think abstain from things. There's something very healthy about that type of fasting, but know why, and then before you get back into it, evaluate if you need to get into it as hard as you were before. Otherwise, don't do it. I think it actually is more detrimental to abstain without understanding.
That's fair. Jackie, did we get your take, or did you just heckle John and I counted it as your take?
I heckled him, and tonight is the eve of Groundhog Day, so why wouldn't you celebrate like it's 1999?
Because there may or may not be 6 more weeks of winter based on what a rodent says. So everybody pop a beverage. John has a recipe for you. Okay, here we go. Last topic of the evening. Which state has the weirdest weather? I don't know why this came up in the group chat. I think it was Jackie's idea. I love that she just threw it out there and went like, listen, here's what the answer is. I'm just going to do the whole thing by myself. So she's going to get to go first since she's already mastered the response. Which state has the weirdest weather? Go.
Since it was 70 degrees today in North Texas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and tomorrow night we have a winter weather storm. So my thing is that out of the entire United States, the state with the craziest winter weather, the most inconsistent winter weather, like you know, basically it's cold in other places and it's warm in Florida and Southern California, but Texas, it like wants to be Florida. And so every week we've had like 65 degrees, 70, and then these cold fronts come through. It's like, no, you're going to be 15 degrees, 20 degrees. So I would say North, and not even all of Texas. North Texas gets these crazy cold fronts. Tomorrow we're going to be going through, well, Bobby is. I'm not, because I'm not going to be there. Snow and ice.
Sorry,
and
Bobby.
Sleet. Sorry, Bobby and children. I will be praying for you from California. Yeah, so that's my thing, is that Texas has the craziest winter weather. Yeah.
It's a good take. I was absolutely considering moving to Houston until you told that story.
Hey, Houston is not North Texas. Houston is sitting in the Florida zone, okay? So
Bridget, I bet you have something to say about that. Go for it.
Well, I'm pretty sure Texans everywhere are really upset that you just said Florida is trying to be, or Texas is trying to be Florida. I mean, they're like really mad. But I agree, it's totally Texas. Like Texas is all over the place. In Houston, even like it was warm today and we're supposed to get down to 20 like in a few days. It's Texas, but I don't really mind like crazy weather swings. I think it's kind of fun. Like you never know what's going to happen. Like you walk outside and it's raining. What am I going to do today? It's kind of exciting, but I always just carry around a jacket, an umbrella, and sunglasses at all times. But I'm usually in long sleeves and a hoodie anyway. So even in the summer, I wear hoodies and long sleeves. So I'm good with weather swings anyway.
You are incredibly prepared, and I love it. And you should apparently, based on Jackie's story, also be carrying around snowshoes at any given moment. So
I wear Uggs all the time.
Given moment.
Any given moment. Any given moment. All right. Well, Joel, what's the weirdest weather state, and why is it where you live?
I am a resident of Arizona, and it is where I live. And here's why. When I think about weirdest weather state, I think about consistency. And consistency is weird weather is demonstrated through the ability of a state to respond to that weird weather. The weird weather you speak of in Texas shuts it down. So that's like fluky weather. Texas has fluky weather. Arizona has almost every, I think, climate zone included in it. So if I drive up 3 hours north right now, I will hit 0 degree temperatures. There will be snow consistently, and they know how to deal with it because they deal with it often. In the summer, it's over 120 degrees in Phoenix. I can cook cookies out on the sidewalk. Not that I would do that, not that I would eat them, not that I've ever done that, but maybe I've done it once just to see if I could do it. And dang it, it does in fact work. So Arizona as a state has very odd weather in it. Snow up north, cold temperatures, sub-zero temperatures. And in Arizona, this is the only place I've ever been to where I stopped at a stoplight. And on one side of the street, it was pouring rain. And on the other side of the street at the stoplight, it was bright and sunny because there was a pop-up storm 5 feet away from where it was sunny and dry. And that is bizarre, but our state knows how to handle it because it's a boss and Arizona has the weirdest weather.
And it's called not being under a cloud.
That
Yeah.
But wait,
Have you ever
seen
seen it?
it?
Have you ever seen it in
That's
Texas?
okay.
No, you ain't
I've seen it in California.
In,
You're like, oh,
but California doesn't have the weirdest weather.
I entered
Texas
the
is
cloud. It's raining now.
But can you make the argument that Texas has the weirder weather because we don't know how to handle it? Like, we don't know what we're doing.
Flukier weather because it's
It's
not
crazy.
consistent.
We don't
Yeah,
know what to
Because
do.
fluky. It's fluky.
Fluky.
It is
Consistently
consistently
weird.
inconsistent.
No, see, that's fluky. That's the very
No,
definition
it's
of fluky.
every single week in the last couple months. It has been one point of a super warm, and then the cold front. The cold fronts are something that this California never had to deal with. It is absolutely nuts. It
So, but
creates
that'd be weird for you.
No,
But I think for
it's
maybe
just,
Texas natives, they'd say, "Well, that's just Texas."
I'm telling you, I don't know any other state that is summer and then winter in 2 days in the winter.
I think that you
in the winter.
Californians who are part
Okay.
of the Texodus, as I've called it, when you all relocated from your state to that other state for reasons that we don't need to go into right here.
okay.
I think you're just adjusting to it. It's the Texodus. It's okay. You're like the Israelites in the desert. You're getting used to the Sinai.
Earlier
This is gonna get
today,
into a conversation about real estate.
earlier tonight on the show, we talked about the possibility of World War III, and this is the most heated discussion that we have had thus far.
And I haven't even gone yet.
And John hasn't even gone yet, and he's going to tell us a little bit about Illinois and the possibility that there is perhaps a supervillain controlling the weather.
It's not just Illinois, it's the Midwest. It's Illinois. I was born in Detroit. I moved to Illinois. I lived in Wisconsin. I've visited Minnesota quite a bit. It's insane. It's so like all those places you guys are mentioning, they're so consistent. You're consistently warm. It's consistently warm. Sometimes it's a little bit cold, but you have one thing to expect all the time. In Illinois, like summer will last until October, and then it snows, and there's no spring. And then like winter, I remember snow days when I was a kid, and now like it barely snows in December, January, February, but March all of a sudden is crazy winter. And it's nuts. Like it's like negative 50 degrees in Minnesota at all times. The Marquette, Michigan weather changes every single day. It's wild. And so what I do, because I'm stubborn, is I protest it. I wear jeans, shorts, flip-flops, a hat, and no coat all year round. I'm not kidding you. I drive my son in negative 20-degree weather to school in shorts and flip-flops and no jacket, because I'm stubborn and I refuse to adapt to this ridiculous weather.
And so Illinois doesn't have the weirdest weather. It sounds like it has the weirdest people.
Wow.
Strong possibility
All a
there.
conversation just about
from
going
Joel.
green And
I'm taking my music off Spotify, Joel.
Not again.
Exactly. You didn't even know I was on there.
I'm taking my music off Spotify if I see you in flip flops one more time, Blevins.
Amazing. I still think the weirdest weather is any place that can have a tornado. I mean, if we're
Illinois.
talking about weird, like a tornado's
Texas
weird.
has bad ones.
And then like you can be in the middle of a tornado and it's totally clear, and then it's back to tornado again. Like, I mean, I don't know. That's pretty rough. Also, you could light it on fire, and then it would be like a video game.
Yeah. Or sharks get in it, and then it's really bad.
And then it would be
Florida.
Sharknado.
Or you
Great
just
connection there,
start shooting
Joel.
at it, and then
Texas. But
Wow.
not Austin.
This has really been a bumper sticker of a conversation. All right, thus endeth our pre-planned conversational topics here on Around the Halo. And in no pre-planning of its own, just through normal conversation, Joel Stepanek ends up as our winner this evening by a single point, which is pretty incredible. And as is tradition here on Around the Halo, you now get 30 seconds to talk about anything you want in the world. It can be shameless self-promotion. It can be what's going on in your life. You could defer your 30 seconds for 30 seconds of silence. Just keep in mind that I'm giving you 30 seconds, and last time I absolutely cut off a priest who was in the middle of praying for everybody else because, you know, like we are unflinchingly rigid about our rules here on Around the Halo, just so we're all on the same page. Okay? So on your mark, get set, go, Joel.
Initially, I thought about doing a shameless plug for my new book, Beginning Well, which you can get at avemariapress.com, which is about how we have a real successful start to any new beginning. And it's a book that anybody should have, but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the 1989 film, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where the key quote when they went to the future was, "Be excellent to each other." And though it seems trite and Keanu Reeves was in his prime in that movie, I think it's something that after tonight's discussion, I'd encourage us all to take to heart. Friends, be excellent to each other. The people you meet at the grocery store, your friends, your family, those people online. It's late 80s advice that's still applicable today. Bill and Ted.
And time. Wow, that was amazing. Perhaps the most concise.
It's almost like he speaks for a living.
Wow, the most concise 30 seconds of talking about whatever you want that I've ever witnessed in both episodes that we've ever had here on Around the Halo.
I hate that I'm becoming the Woody Page of this Around the Horn that never wins, and it's going to be ridiculous.
You can't say that after 2 episodes.
Yes, I can. I'm 0 for 2.
Okay, well, if you want to look at it that way, I mean, what if you win the other 98 episodes? Like, you never know what could happen. What if we end up with a Super Bowl of Around the Halo? That would be incredible. You know, probably during season 2. All right. Well, thus endeth tonight's broadcast, although we usually do take a little bit of time afterwards to catch up with the chat and perhaps go into a little bit of conversation with them for a few minutes here afterwards. But I want to thank everybody for joining us, and Little Flower Media, and also for Word on Fire, and Mac Studios at UST, and Joel Stepanek for being himself, for helping us with putting these shows together. And it's always great to have support from you as well, the viewers and the chat. And we'll be continuing to post content on the YouTube channels, as well as putting together some clips for TikTok and socials. Please do follow us at the Little Flower Media YouTube channel, which many of you are doing already, and we certainly appreciate it. John, what am I forgetting? We had something else this evening that I was supposed to go over. Was it perhaps a promo video for what's coming up on the channel?
Yeah, we are giving away an NZXT computer, a brand new PC brought to you by Focus Catholic. Seek 22 is happening this weekend. We are, for the first time ever, and we'll show the cool video in a second, having a keynote from Seek 22 on Friday, live streamed on our Twitch channel, and then having a conversation afterwards, and then giving away a PC. So really, really cool stuff. Make sure you type in ! giveaway, but also check out this amazing video that McClure did to tell you all about it.
Here we go. Stand by. Yes, it is. I've muted.